Peter D, you have had Francine and Tori ringside for you, both stunning women. Do they take away from your persona in the ring as men are checking them out rather than watching you?
No, there's times that we in the ring would grab rest holds and need to, if you're going to go out and do a 45, 50-minute match. And, they were great. You could obviously, I always joke around. Yeah, somebody had to work with Tori and Franny, so I took one for the team. It was, they were both great to work with, both incredibly professional, both fast learners, both eager to perform, both took on those roles. Franny and I have talked about it publicly. I feel sort of foolish now in 23 saying this, but in hindsight, I'm glad that we did, because we're like best buddies now. We're like brother and sister. When we get around each other, we like two goofballs. And throw Sam in there, forget about it. You're going to laugh. You're going to pee your pants. But it's comfortable being around her. Because there's not some weird thing we had done in the past and like trying to pretend it didn't happen or whatever. Plus, I was raised in, the little soapbox side for a second. I was raised in a world where marriage didn't work. Everybody I knew, my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, most of my friends. I had two friends whose parents stayed married. And not that they fought or anything, but they didn't look especially happy together. They would sit down and watch TV, never say a word to each other. And so I grew up telling myself I'm never going to get married. And I fervently meant that. In large part because I didn't want to raise kids the way I was raised. And I got no boo-hoo story. I had a great upbringing. But I didn't want kids raised in that kind of a system. And so I, go ahead and do this and then find out. But when I did finally decide to get married, to me, it was, this is going to fail in spite of me. It's not going to be because I'm out screwing around on the road or grabbing a rat here or there. I can look my boys in the eye today and put my hand on a Bible and swear on everything I believe to be holy, that I never cheated on their mother, would have never cheated on their mother. Now, again, I feel a little bit foolish in hindsight, because let's face it, Franny wasn't bad on the eyes, but both Tori and Franny and all three of us, every bit of that, I swear on my kids, was completely professional. And there's times when I feel stupid saying that, but I'm so glad it is, because I see Tori rarely, and when we do, it's always great. Franny and I we talk to each other 20 times a week on the phone, either by text or straight by voice. And I'm glad for that, because it's not weird or odd at all. It's just hanging out with buds, and I count her as a good friend. I count Tori as a good friend, although I don't see her very often. And I'm glad that we took that approach to it, because it would make it sort of weird today, I think.
What makes a good valet and what makes a bad valet?
To me, a bad valet, there are a lot of things that would go into that. Taking too much of the spotlight.
Well, that's what that's exactly what I was going to get at. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off on the story there, but I mean, Francine, Tori, beautiful women. I mean, even with them doing nothing, but they're dressed scantily to catch the eye, of course, of the mostly male audience. How do they not take the spotlight away from you a bit, but then other valets might?
Because there's a time to come to life and there's a time to acquiesce. Both of them picked it up incredibly quickly. Thank God. When we need a breather, when we're doing all this, blah, 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 grab a hold. Okay, now boom, take the attention away. Franny also then gave to me that counterbalance, like and later Tori, where you wanted to like him because they're so good looking and beautiful, but they like this guy and they're helping this guy. And, so it was really easy for them to, once they got past a certain point with the triple threat, which I include Franny, and there's four of us, we get this panoply of reaction. I would get booed. Chris would get sort of like they liked him. Bammer would get the golf clap, the respect thing, and Franny go, ooh. So we had these four different reactions, and I knew we had to get that sort of more in a singular vein, as opposed to this all over the place, because then it's going to be a pop when Bam Bam goes in. It's going to be, the respect thing when Candido goes in. It's going to be the woo la la when Franny pops her stuff, and it's going to be boo when I get in there. We needed to standardize that. And with Tori later, that would be when we had the same issue, because again, beautiful woman, great body, very, very athletic, where they wanted to hate me and love her. And so we started her hitting the line, don't hate me because I'm this beautiful. Like when you look to the lady next to you, don't hate us because I'm that much better looking. And that started getting unfortunately, we weren't given the same kind of time that Franny and I had to flesh that out. But there is a way for you as the worker to keep that in control. So when we would go to the ring, if you recall, like with Francine and Tori, be the ropes open, give them the center walk, right? So they're the star for that outset. Do the kiss, the chest beat. She's got the center lane. So she's in spotlight for a moment. Then I would come in, we would gravitate together. Then once the match started, she'd get out, and she knew very quickly our trips to and from the buildings would be constantly talking about either things she did last time on the way to the building or things she did tonight on the way back from the building. She would ask the perfectly right questions. If you would have thrown me in with any world champion when I was less than a year in the business, I would have probably crapped my pants and probably would have really loused it up. But she really took it quickly. And where I knew Francine had finally captured that character, embodied it, was we did the entrance the one time. I hold the ropes, the kiss, the chest beat. She goes in. Now, typically when I would come in, she would just sort of circle back and come with me back into the corner. On this particular night, completely unbeknownst to me, we do the rope, the kiss, the chest beat. She takes the center walk, in I come, and instead of following me, she goes the opposite direction. Where the hell is she going? And she does this really sexy walk along the ropes and gets in the corner opposite me and looks at me, drops her head like this sexy glance, drops down onto all fours and like a cat, crawls across the ring and comes up and kisses the belt. I went, nothing else I can teach you. You got it. I'd never thought of that. And, it was perfect. And both her and Tori were very willing students. They would ask the right questions. When you'd give them something, you didn't have to go back and reiterate it. They would execute it. And both were so easy to work with because of that professionalism. And, like I said, I look back and somebody had to work with those two beautiful women, and so I took one for the team. It was tough to do.
I interrupted you a few minutes ago when you were about to tell a story. Was that the one that I interrupted you over, or was it something else?
No, I think I was just going to say, I think at that time we interrupted, I was going to make the point that, when the two wrestlers are in the ring and they're exerting all of this to put this spot on, or this part of the match together, that's when they have to sort of become more invisible. So less movement, less whatever. Now we grab a hold, start to bang, the baby face starts making that comeback. Now Francine starts coming in, and she, again, because we had so much more time together, where she would come on, franchise, and would give that look at everybody in that building that hated my guts. And why are you cheering for this jerk off? And then when we needed a real attention getter, boom, let her pop up, do whatever. And then Franny was always good, something Tori did less of. But what Franny was always so good for, she's built like a stick, right? I mean, she's beautifully embodied, but 100 pounds soaking wet, power bombs through tables, Bammer pressing him over his head and throwing her. There was always going to be that one thing that would just let the fans go, oh, you deserve that, bitch, because you like that jerk off, right? And so it's just another, like an easy explosion in the match that you could get. And the fact that she was such a willing participant, and again, bumps like that ain't easy. Power bomb off the top of that table. Again, golf clap, because that's a stiff bump. And Franny never complained. When she broke her hip, she didn't complain. She said, my hip bothering me, but she'd, oh, poor me, my hip. And she just fits so perfectly into that dressing room. That's why whenever I say the boys, I mean everybody in that dressing room. They're all the boys, right? Because they're all putting on.